Friends, what happened when a person with a passport from a country that doesn't exist in this world reached the airport? And what if someone, through time travel, converted their $800 into $350 million within just 14 days? Do you know how a person traveled through time from 1950 to 2006? In this video, I'm going to tell you about a major incident related to real-time travel. Enjoy our videos, hit the subscribe button. It's free for you, but it helps us a lot. It's the culmination of our team's hard work. So, let's start with the account of Andrew Carlson. In March 2003, a 40-year-old man named Andrew Carlson invested $800 in the stock market for trading. While many people invest in the stock market and make significant profits, this man, within just 14 days, generated $350 million by manipulating merchant rates. When FBI got wind of this, they arrested Andrew, suspecting that he might have engaged in a massive scam or insider trading, as making such a huge amount of money in such a short time seemed almost impossible. When asked, he told the FBI that he precisely knew where the stock market would go. He gave a shocking answer, claiming to be a time traveler who originated from the future. According to his account, the year he comes from is 2253, and the world there is distinct, with people being 250 years ahead. However, the FBI did not believe his explanation, thinking he was giving a false explanation to conceal the game. Well, nobody believed him, and a decision was made to present the case in court. However, when the FBI investigated to build a case against him, they found that the man did not exist in any database. His fingerprints were run, but there was no record, no family, and no one knew who he was. All they could find out was that he had rented a house 3 months ago and had started living there, initiating his stock market trading. When FBI investigators looked at his records, they were shocked. He had been missing since the day he was supposed to appear in court. Despite numerous attempts to find him, nothing was ever discovered, and to this day, no one knows who he was, where he came from, or where he went. He remains a mystery, and his account still holds $350 million, untouched and unclaimed. The question of who he was, where he came from, and where he went remains a mystery to this day. This incident is not very old. In 2006, in the Ukrainian capital of Kyiv, a young man was found in a perplexed state. He was wearing old-fashioned clothes, and an ancient camera hung around his neck. People thought he might be crazy, but little did they know that he was about to become part of a time travel story. A person introducing himself as Sergei Ponomarenko. When the police asked him for identification, he presented a Soviet Union ID that doesn't exist anymore. Yes, Ukraine was part of the Soviet Union before, and when this incident occurred, the Soviet Union had already collapsed. It's not that Ukrainian police had never seen a Soviet Union ID before. However, the person claiming to be Sergei appeared to be in his 20s, and his ID showed a birth date of 1932. Not only a birth date, but also the photos on the ID were from that era. This whole situation was perplexing for the police. The person, who seemed to be in his 20s in 2006, continued to look the same even after the fall of the Soviet Union. Ukrainian police, astonished, asked Sergei about today's date. After a moment of thought, he responded, 23rd April, 1958. This raised suspicions for the police, and they took him to a mental hospital. Dr. Pablo Kutrikov examined him, but even he couldn't comprehend what was happening. Sergei was unable to explain how he arrived in 1958. However, he showed a photo on his camera that caught everyone's attention, an unidentified flying object in the sky. Dr. Kutrikov was baffled. When he looked at the camera, it turned out to be an antique Yashica Flex camera. The condition of the camera didn't seem consistent with its age. It was discontinued in the 1970s. An expert named Adim Posner was called, who found a date written on the camera roll. It was manufactured in 1956. As they developed the photos, more confusion arose. The pictures depicted a city from the 1950s with cars, buildings, and streets. Some buildings in the photos were known to have collapsed later, and there were also pictures of Sergei and his girlfriend, seemingly from decades ago. Sergei's claim matched the photos. When the police investigated further, they found that a person named Sergei Ponomarenko had disappeared in the 1960s. He returned briefly after the fall of the Soviet Union, but disappeared again in the 1960s. Years later, a cold photo with a note arrived, indicating that he would return soon. Unfortunately, he never came back. Sergei Ponomarenko's intriguing story was featured on a Ukrainian TV show and quickly went viral on the internet. However, the question remains, is this story true? The question here is whether this story is really true. Before delving into this, let's understand whether time travel is indeed possible. There is no doubt that, in a way, we are all traveling through time into the future. The timetable in our present narrates an hour spent in the future. However, if someone manages to live just half an hour in any way, compared to others, they will have traveled half an hour into the future. This concept was first introduced by Albert Einstein in his theory of special relativity, where time does not pass uniformly in space. It depends on the object's speed and the level of oxygen, like a clock and its hands at different altitudes. Similarly, time in space also depends on the speed of the object and its mass. While on Earth, our time depends on our mass and its speed. However, if we were on Jupiter, with its higher mass, time would pass more slowly there. According to the theory, the faster the speed, the slower time passes. So, if someone travels in a spacecraft that moves at the speed of light for 5 years in the universe and then returns to Earth, only 5 years would have passed for them, but 36 years would have passed on Earth. The time difference between the clocks in both spacecrafts is known as time dilation. To prove Einstein's theory, an experiment was conducted in 1971 called the Haffele-Keating experiment. Clocks were synchronized on the ground, and one was placed on an eastbound flight, while the other was on a westbound flight. When both planes returned, a significant time difference was observed. The clock on the eastbound plane had slowed down by 59 nanoseconds compared to the ground, while the clock on the westbound plane was ahead by 273 nanoseconds. Another way of future time travel is through gravity. According to Einstein's general relativity, the more gravity there is, the slower time passes. An experiment in 2010 demonstrated this, where an atomic clock placed lower on a shelf ran slower than another clock placed 33 centimeters higher on the shelf, experiencing more gravity. However, practical time travel, as shown in science fiction movies, is considered impossible by the scientific community. To achieve time travel, one would need to approach a black hole, which could be almost 1560 light-years away in the future. In conclusion, while theoretical time travel is possible, practical implementation is deemed impossible due to the challenges posed by the speed of light and the need to approach a black hole. If you enjoy our videos, hit the subscribe button. It's free for you, but it helps us a lot. It's the culmination of our team's hard work. Thanks for being part of the Unexplained Professor.